Hey guys, it's Puneet here from Coach. In today's lesson, I will be discussing with you the harmonic analysis or the chord progression analysis for the song Kaise Mujhe Tu Mil Gayi by AR Rahman, and it's a fantastic composition with some interesting chord ideas. So I've already done the guitar lesson for this with the demonstration and the performance and the chords and the strumming and stuff. So you can check that out in the video in the link in the description box. And here we'll be only discussing about the music theory aspects of the chord progressions. So this song is originally in the key of G minor, but I have taken it in E minor as it's better to play on the guitar and sounds much better. So the analysis will also be in the key of E minor. So just a quick few things before we actually get into the lesson. I have online courses of music theory starting from beginner to advanced levels, which will cover all of these concepts stepwise, which I'll be discussing with you, and many more other things as well. So you can check that out in the link in the description box below this video. Now let us start off with looking at the parent scale for this song, which is G major, or you can say E minor as well in certain places. So E minor, you must be probably knowing, is also known as a relative minor of G major. So the chords of these two scales and the notes of these two scales are exactly the same, but only the root chord will be different. So in case of G major, we have the G as the one chord, G major, C and D, we have three majors, the 1, 4 and 5. Then for the minors, we have the 2, 3 and the 6, that is the A minor, B minor and the E minor. And there's a diminished triad as well on the 7th, that is the F sharp diminished. So for practical purposes, that diminished chord will not be much useful in this particular song. These are also the same chords that exist in E minor, only the numbering will be different because there the E minor will become the one chord, but the chords themselves will stay the same. So let's start off with progression number 1. We have, this is the intro, right? The intro part before the alap starts. So this is E minor, G major, D major going to the A/C sharp chord. So E minor, G and D, we clearly know they exist in the G major scale. Here we have the A/C sharp, which is basically an A major chord but with C sharp in the bass. This chord is an outside chord, and we'll come to the analysis very quickly. And we also have to know the next chords in order to understand this particular chord, why they have used this. So it starts off with that alap part, C major going to E minor twice. So let's look at the analysis for this outside chord, that is A/C sharp. So if you look at the notes of A major with C sharp in the bass, we have A, C sharp and E. And this C sharp can be explained to be part of a scale which is very close to the E minor scale, which is known as the E Dorian scale. And this Dorian scale has only one note different from the natural E minor, that is the C. Instead of the C, we have a C sharp over here. So the notes of the E Dorian scale are E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp instead of the C, and D and E. So because these two scales are so closely related, we can do a interchange between these two scales, that is known as modal interchange. So we've picked this particular chord from the E Dorian mode or E Dorian scale. Now another very cool thing, if you notice the bass in the chord progression, there's a D major followed by a C sharp in the bass in A/C sharp, and that goes to the C. So it's a very nice chromatic, that is a stepwise downward movement of bass notes that leads into that C major, which is where the vocals start. So it creates a nice tension and resolution effect. Now coming to my favorite part of this song, which is the progression number 2, where we have G going to D minor, and then we have G going to C minor, and then we stay on the G. So here we have two outside chords, D minor and C minor. So in order to understand the analysis, let us look at the notes of these two chords first. In D minor, we have the D, F, A, and in C minor, we have the C, E flat and the G. So we have two outside notes here. In the D minor, we have the F note, and in the C minor, we have the E flat note. And in context of the G, these become the F is a flat 7, E flat becomes the flat 6. So the flat 6 and the flat 7 can both be found in the G minor scale. And if you look at the G minor scale, the notes are G, A, B flat is the flat 3 instead of the B. Then we have a C, D, and then we have E flat and F, which are different from a G major scale. So here we can clearly see that these two notes have been borrowed from the G minor scale, which is parallel to the G major scale. So again, this is done in order to create some nice tension effects into a major scale. Otherwise, if you play only major scale progressions all the time, it can become pretty bland and boring. So this introduces some very interesting tension into the music and in the melody as well, and that then resolves back to the G major, creating a very nice tension resolution effect. Now you can see progression number 3 written out on your screens. Again, they've used that A major, which comes from the E Dorian scale. So the analysis for this part remains the same. Now progression 5, again we have most of the chords being diatonic. Here right at the end there's an F major which has been used, which is during the music part basically. So here again, if you look at the notes of the F major, we have F, A and the C note. And F note, as we have looked at before, it comes from the parallel minor, that is the G minor scale. So this F major can be analyzed as as a borrowed chord rather from the G minor scale. Now coming to progression number 6, again it's written out on your screen. So here I would like to draw your attention to that the part which is in red, which is the C going to the C minor and then the G. So we've already analyzed that C minor comes from the G minor scale, that is a borrowed chord from the parallel minor. But here an interesting effect is the sound when you go from the C major to the C minor, and that then goes to the root chord, that is a G major. This is a very typical sound that exists in music, especially in a lot of Western songs. And in fact, it's so classical that it's got a name of its own, and that's called as a minor plagal cadence. And this can sound really beautiful and has a very nice, again a very very tense effect, but it still resolves very beautifully and gives a very nice melancholic vibe to the entire piece. So guys, these were all the concepts that have been used in this song. It's a pretty simple song with some nice spiced up chords. So I hope you've understood all of these concepts. So again, before I say goodbye, I would like to remind you about my courses that you can check out on my website. The link is there in the description box below this video. So I'll see you guys very soon again in the next video. Cheers.